Hey, She Ace That listeners, find us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Every subscribe, like, and follow goes a long way, and I can't thank you all enough for your support. And with that, let's get into today's episode. Hey, everybody, welcome back to She Ace That. Today I have somebody incredibly special, my best friend, Bryn Nagel. We met at MSU Club Volleyball through mutual friends, and from day one, I knew she was somebody special. She's a former setter. She became one of the most decorated players I know. She's newly engaged. She lives in New York, and she's still playing volleyball every single week. I'm really excited to get into this episode today. Bryn, welcome to She Ace That.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Before we dive in, I do want to talk about how we met because obviously Michigan State Volleyball changed both of our lives tremendously. I want to get into your transition, deciding to go to Michigan State, leaving New York, and how you got into club volleyball there in the first place.
It's far for me, 11-hour drive. And when I was looking at all the different schools, I knew I wanted something big. And I was debating on, do I want to continue my career or do I want to go to school and focus on school? So I ended up deciding to go to school, focus on school. And I live by the beach in Rockaway. The city's an hour away. And I was like, you know what? What's a better time to dive into nature? That brought me to Michigan State. On top of that, the hospitality business program really was a good pull. For club volleyball, I didn't join until my junior year, which I feel like is unheard of. I don't know if that's normal, but my friend Riley, who's also your friend, she is the one who asked me to try out. And then from there, it just worked out.
That was amazing. It was really cool to have you join as a junior. I feel like most girls do try out as like freshmen or sophomores often. We've seen it on all ends though. Your situation joining as a junior at a club sport versus somebody who maybe made it as a freshman and got cut from the team as a sophomore. And there's just so many different dynamics that can work out, which is really difficult, but I feel blessed that we were able to play together that whole year. And then the year after was off for me because I wasn't there with like my internship and things in that realm and
Yeah,
coaching, but we still were able to have those 2 years together on that team, which was really awesome.
for sure.
And we'll definitely get into more about Michigan State in general, but I do want to go back to you sharing that you started playing volleyball when you were around 8 years old. So take me back to that moment and what was little Bryn thinking when she chose to play volleyball?
So my mom was a big, you have to try every sport. Swimming, tennis, basketball, softball, anything this town offered, I was involved in for at least a year. I couldn't quit halfway through, and I had to pick which ones I liked, which ones I didn't. So volleyball actually was not offered. Very strange, but there was a town over from us and they had volleyball. So some of our friends were like, you know what? Let's just try it. Tried it. We ended up really liking it, but they still didn't offer a program. So that was difficult. And then our moms all fought for a volleyball program. So one of the moms decided to coach and we brought it to our neighborhood. And that's really how I started. It's so silly, but it's just trying every sport. And I was like, yeah, this one's good.
That's
Um,
amazing that your mom and friends took that initiative to start that because it is so life-changing. Once you get into volleyball, it's like you're in it pretty much forever if that's especially your primary sport. It's cool that they were part of bringing that to your area, and it's crazy that it wasn't initially there. What is your take on playing every sport growing up? Do you think it's beneficial? Do you think there's a specific time that you should decide to maybe move towards one versus others?
I love doing it. I thought it was so interesting and such a good way to keep your kids active. They may not be happy in every sport. Like I could tell you off the bat, swimming, not for me. Didn't like jumping into the cold pool, but I love just learning about every sport. So I think it's a great thing to do. I didn't actually make a choice until eighth grade. So I played soccer and volleyball through the eighth grade. So we have something here called CYO. Do you have that?
What does that stand for?
So it's Catholic youth organizations. So it's pretty much like our neighborhood sports. So before you get into like middle school, our elementary schools don't have sports programs. I don't know if many do, but that's how we get into our sports here. So you
Okay.
play other like different neighborhoods. So we'll play Breezy, which is 10 minutes away from us. We'll play schools that are 20 minutes the other direction. And that's how you get into it. So volleyball and soccer were two totally different seasons for CYO. So you were able to do both. And then once you got into the eighth grade, CYO is over. So it's just through middle school. And then from there, you get into high school where volleyball and soccer are the same season. Club volleyball and club soccer full year round. So then I had to make the choice of which one to do. And it's so embarrassing to say. I picked volleyball because it was inside. That's why I picked it.
Well,
Because
especially when you're
winters
living
here,
on the, like, East Coast and
yes,
yeah,
yes, it's
yeah.
cold. It's cold. And in the dark, it's more cold. In the winter, in the snow, you're playing. So volleyball, less running and controlled temperature. Perfect. So I was
I
like, you know
love
what?
that.
For me,
I
like
love
I wish it was something better. It
Hey,
is
but that led you in the
totally
direction you were meant to go. And it's really interesting how different areas do take on youth sports because, like you're saying, you had the CYO until high school. And then, like for us, my first school tryout for volleyball was in seventh grade. So we actually started sports in middle school for school. Like sixth grade, you could do maybe cross country and track. And then once you got to seventh grade, you could do the volleyball, basketball, soccer for your school. Yeah. So I did something similar. Like I played volleyball and then basketball and then soccer in middle school. And then once I got to high school, really transferred my vision to volleyball specifically. But I feel like that regardless of how the teams go up until high school is probably the main decision point of which one you want to put your most focus on, just because of, like you said, club season, travel seasons. It's really impactful to be doing multiple sports at once. Even Kyle, for playing football and hockey, it was like he had to make different decisions on if he was going to play travel for either or where he wanted to go with each, even though he still played both in high school. It's like those other club seasons are so impactful to your school season. And then you can think of injuries, and there's so much to take into consideration. Probably make a set decision early on in high school for the most part.
yeah, and that's really interesting that you didn't start early. Like for me and around here, it's
Mhm.
normal to start sports in the first or the second grade, even younger. Like
Wow.
I was
Yeah.
playing soccer probably around kindergarten, first grade. That's really I never knew that. So I guess we're super lucky
Yeah.
because that's never something I understood is not normal.
Soccer is interesting because it's a good foundation for any sport that you want to go to growing up. Different organizations, when you are a kindergartner or through elementary school, it's just a way to stay active and learn teamwork and all of that good stuff. And I feel like
Yes.
soccer, for some reason, is the best foundation of any sport that young are just trying to run around and figure it out. And
Yeah.
because I played soccer when I was that little too, I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, I'm supposed to get this ball to the net. I can never actually get it there. They would say, go on the right wing of the field. And I'm like, I have no clue where that is. I'm like, I'm
It's
6
like
years old. Yeah, and is that even depending on where I look, I'm like, what team am I even on? But I think it's always a great start to any other sports, and I give soccer players who do continue to play, like, into high school and college, I'm like, "You guys are amazing because of how many kids play that sport." When did your volleyball career shift from a convenient indoor sport to this is my life?
so I will say probably middle school. So our middle school had one team, all three grades, and I ended up making the team and I was excited. So we made that team and it was fun, but I still wasn't obsessed. It was more like a way for me to have friends, like a way to see my friends, make my friends, go to different schools, and you got to play volleyball during the school day. They pulled you out of school, which
That's always a
was
bonus.
very fun. So that was more fun than love. But those girls that I played with, half lived in the other neighborhood next door to us called Breezy, half lived in my neighborhood, Rockaway. So for CYO, that means we're opposing teams. So you have to play with your neighborhood.
Mm.
So that's, I think, when I started to love it because both of our teams got really good. That's when it started to become fun because it's competition, but you're playing your friends and you want to be as good as your friends, but you want to beat your friends. And then you want to get to school and be like, tough game.
Yeah, that's actually
So,
so cool.
yeah, so I think that was one of the things that really drew me to the sport. And then from there, one of my other friends was like, "Oh, I'm playing travel volleyball at Aviator. Are you?" And I was like, "What's travel volleyball?" It's like, "I don't even know what that is." And I brought it to my mom and I was like, "Mom, what's travel volleyball?" She was like, "Oh, it's like travel soccer." So I was like, "I'll try it." That's really what pulled it was that friendly competition, but also being able to still play with my friends and know people on the other side of the net.
So speaking of club, you had incredible achievements that we'll get into as well. But first, I want to talk about how you became a setter. That's what I know you as, anyways, an incredible
Yeah,
setter. You played outside for exactly 1 day, and what happened with that?
that is true. So for CYO, there's no like real positions until like about the seventh or eighth grade. So you set in the middle, whoever gets there, you set the ball. And then once you start actually learning the sport, they'll swap it up. I got to tryouts and they're like, okay, we're separating by position. Because I would say our age group was the youngest, and I think it went until high school, but it still wasn't massive yet because the sport was still coming to our neighborhood. I was like, I don't know what these positions are. And they were like, okay, you hit, you pass, or you set. And I was like, those two don't sound as cool as hitting. I'll go to hitting. I go to hitting, everyone starts on the outside. So I'm practicing on the outside all day. Then it's time for Queen of the Court, everyone's favorite game. The other side didn't have a setter. And my two coaches at the time, who ended up being lifelong coaches for me, pretty much, were like, Bryn, can you get over there and set? I was like, sure, why not? So I get over there, I set a few balls, Queen of Court ends, they pull me over and they say, you will never hit a volleyball again. You are a setter. And I said, okay, didn't know. I don't even know what I did. I don't know if I was even doing the right techniques. Maybe they just saw something in me. But after that day, I never went to a hitting line again. And I strictly went to the setting. And I don't think anybody understood how life changing that would be for me. Even that,
It's crazy how those types of coaches, though, if they do see something in you, they change the trajectory of your whole volleyball career. It's just so impactful. Like, in that moment, it felt like maybe a minor decision or
100%.
transition because you're like, I don't even know what to expect. Maybe this year I'll be a setter. Maybe next year they'll play me back row. Like, you don't know what the bigger picture, I feel like, for anybody in sports is for their whole careers. Things change in one tryout or one season. It's really cool that you have that milestone where you were like, this did change where my volleyball career was going to head purely because of where my coaches saw me at. And I guess for people who maybe don't know volleyball as much or maybe aren't used to the setting position, explain what being a setter means to you.
how it got described to me when I was a kid is you're the quarterback. The quarterback is the most known position, I feel like, in almost any sport, in America at least. You know what the quarterback is. So I was like, what do you mean I'm the quarterback? I'm just the middleman. That's how I felt. I'm just the
That's
middleman.
funny. Yeah.
And they were like, no, you're not the middleman. You control everything. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like 12. What do you mean I control everything? Like, I don't understand. And they were like, you make the plays. You change how everything goes. You call the plays. You set who you want to set. If someone's not hitting, that's because of you. If someone is hitting, that's because of you. Everything revolves around you, and you'll never get the credit and you'll always get the blame. And I said, okay, works for me. They told me I wasn't playing another position. So it was just like take it or leave it. And then I just took that word like quarterback and just brought that through my career. And I didn't get into watching football until honestly Michigan State, and my fiance is a massive football fan. Now it's funny comparing like what that word means to what I was doing, but I think quarterback is the best way to explain it and not the middleman. The
Yeah.
middleman is wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Did that pressure ever get to you when you were told you were the quarterback and kind of understanding what comes with that?
Yes. A million times over, yes, no hesitation needed. Because once you got in the car, in your carpool on the way home, you're like, hey, mom, I was told today I was the quarterback. My mom's like, you're the what? Because she only picked a volleyball from me. So once I explained it to her, and then like I was sitting in bed that night and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything's because of me. And especially getting told you'll never get the credit, but you'll always get the blame. That has stuck with me forever. So you always get that stress of, because it's always going to be, oh, that hitter had that amazing kill. That dig was crazy. That block saved the game. But you don't normally hear what a set. That brought a lot of pressure.
I agree. Until you really get that higher volleyball IQ, like when you're into high school or even like at club at MSU, it's like you don't even realize the credit that you deserve almost from an outside perspective, right? For me as a hitter, I was a setter for a year or two in my volleyball career, so I can relate. But even when I was younger in middle school or freshman year setting, I almost at that time didn't even expect to get any credit or anything
Yeah.
because I thought I had the same middleman mentality as you. And once I got older, if you click with your setter, it's life changing, it's game changing, and it makes the biggest difference, especially if you have a smart setter, knowing who to set, who to hit, and things in that realm. Tell me about the Playmaker Award in 2015 and what that meant to you.
This was one of my later in life awards, but when I got it, I was shocked, over the moon shocked. It was for a high school tournament, and I was playing on varsity. I was a junior, and I still wasn't expecting it. So it was supposed to go to a setter, and there were amazing setters in the room that were committing to college, setters that were brand new to the game, setters that were at the same level as me. And when I got told that I won, I didn't even know I was supposed to go up. I was so shocked. And I wouldn't say that changed my trajectory because it was a later in life award, but I felt like I finally got the credit that I was waiting on because I won MVP in the past, felt great, but it didn't feel as good as this. This felt like I was finally noticed for all of my efforts in the setting world for my whole life. It's still hanging on my wall. I'm 26 years old. That is how proud I am of it, honestly.
As you should be. Speaking of the 13 Open MVP in 2012, you
Yeah.
were so young. Did you even know then how good you were?
No, that was my first award. So to get into nationals, you need to get a bid. And it was our regional championship. So our league was called Jiva. So there wasn't enough teams in New York, wasn't enough teams in New Jersey. They combined them, Garden Empire. So it was for that to get a bid to nationals. So at this point, like I'm just getting into the sport still. And this was either the year of or the year before, the year after that I got told, you're a setter, that's it. And again, you get told you never get the credit. So I'm expecting my friends who are hitters to get this award or who are the liberos to get this. And it's out of the entire Jiva for that age group. So when they call my name, I was in shock again. But this was like my real first award because for soccer, that's different. Team accolades, different. But to be the MVP of the whole tournament for the best teams of the 13-year-old age group made me feel like, okay, maybe they were right, but still that couldn't be me. It definitely pushed me to keep striving to be a better setter because it was like, wow, all these, because it's coach nominated that one. So I was like, wow, all these coaches, not just mine, all of them see something in me. And that said miles.
It's not hard for me to believe that because I just know you and you were the hardest worker, you were determined, you were competitive, but you were also a great teammate. And I feel like you probably had that instilled within you since early on. So it doesn't shock me whatsoever. But like those are the things that I feel keep you going in a sport and give you like those feelings of validation of this is where I'm meant to be. This is where I can fulfill myself. We had stuff in high school where it was like all conference or all regional or all state. Those were ways that at least at that high school level to get that validation for us of, okay, we stood out to not only our coaches, our teammates, but other coaches as well, which is so huge because
Yeah,
when you're on the other side of the court and a coach is noticing you, that says more than even just like your own coach, I feel like saying something.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, it's really validating. Even at nationals for Michigan State Club Volleyball, you would be up for certain awards and other coaches would have to vote. And it's a whole process. And
Yeah.
despite all these achievements, you were constantly told you were maybe too small for the big leagues. How does a young athlete process being put into a box and now it's your turn to break yourself out of that box?
It was hard. And I didn't feel like I was small. I'm 5'5", and I've been 5'5" the whole time.
To me,
I
you
was
don't
small.
feel small.
Yeah, I
You're-
never felt like I was small. And my
yeah.
teammates, my tallest teammate was probably 5'11", and I was like, we're not that different at
Yeah.
all. So it was difficult. Like once we started actually looking at colleges and making that decision, hearing that I was too small, but I just found a way to make myself stand out in other ways. Like I'm known for climbing a bleacher and getting a ball. I'm known for running into the stands, flipping over, still getting the ball. Like, those are the things that I'm known for now. And I sometimes think that's better than height. And I know coaches say you can't teach height. The amount of times that I've heard that, I don't know if you can relate, if other people listening can relate. I've heard that so many times. We'll take that, girl. You can't teach height. You also can't teach working hard and work ethic. If you want to work, you will, but not everyone will. And I think that's the time that you can stand out in other ways. You give that 100% effort, 110. You work on your vertical and show, yeah, I'm little, but I blocked that ball. Yeah, I'm little, but I was able to run across, have a perfect set, come back for a cover, and then have another perfect set. Do you see that girl doing that? Because I don't. And that was the way that I was able to get that validation and not let the height bother me. I think once I got older and we were really looking at colleges, I knew D1 couldn't happen for me because all of these people kept telling me, I'm sorry, but you're too small. So at that point, I was like, okay, I worked hard enough, but I guess I'm just not what they're looking for. And at that point, it it wasn't like soul crushing, but it was a way for me to teach myself, you're still good enough. You're just not that person's cup of tea.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
okay.
for volleyball, especially, like, height is obviously wanted or desired. Just because you are tall doesn't mean you're the best teammate, the best athlete, and volleyball is one of those sports for sure that height is looked at as one of those check the box. Okay, she's tall enough, that helps a box for her to make a team, but in reality, given that it is a team sport, there, like you said, you can't teach work ethic, and there's so many other parameters that are, in my opinion, equivalently impactful as somebody being tall and maybe athletic. And so I just
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that, because it is hard to be defined as who you are, right? Like, you can't control your height. There's a lot of things that we can't change as individuals, and a lot of times we are negatively commented on in those ways, and that goes
Yeah.
for even outside of sports too. Bullying's awful, hearing negative things from coaches or teammates. It's like, we really need to work on not focusing on the things that people are trying to keep us in a box about. And you found ways to break out of that box, which I think says a lot about you as a player, but also as a person. And most
Yeah.
people allow other people to define them as short or not capable of doing X, Y, and Z. And it's actually, I still can. And I see videos to this day on social media where 40, 50, or 60-year-olds are learning new things and new skills physically, mentally, whatever it is. And there's always those negative comments of, are you really making progress in this? Or you really aren't going to get better at this. But I love when I see people defy those odds or push back against what other people are saying about them. Given like this conversation, I want to hear about the All-Star Championship tryouts that you went through.
Yeah. So it's called high performance. So high performance tryouts were every summer after your club season. So this was like a way for each region, so ours was Jiva, to compete against the other regions and take the best players from each region and go compete in like a nationals in that way. And then some of those girls even make it to the USA teams for those levels. So you don't get recommended. Anyone can go. It's not like your coaches pick three girls and you get sent. It's you go and you try out, and they have tryouts in 6 or 7 locations, at least at that time. Give it your all for a day, and then you find out if you get brought back to camp. Camp is about 3 or 4 days. We went to Marist College. You go there, you dorm there, you're playing pretty much all day. And then after that, you find out if you make the team. And then there's a few practices and you go to this tournament. One of the coaches that coached at the high performance asked me to try out. So I was like, okay, that feels good. And my mom, big volleyball mom, my mom's, yes, you are
Yes.
going. So me and one of my closest friends and some of the other girls went, and I believe all of us got brought back. All of my friends got brought back to the camp my first year. Nobody can watch, like no parents can watch. It's not like a showcase. It's you're in there, you're working hard, and that's it. So I did it. I went through. I felt really good about myself. I felt like my number was getting called for the right teams and the right things. And you're sitting in front of everyone and they call your number and they pull you up, and then you stand there and you're like, yeah, I made it. First year, my best friend's number gets called. I'm like waiting. I like feel like I'm getting called. All the setters get called. All the alternates get called. I don't get called. And I cry, obviously. Like, even now, it was emotional for me because you get told to try out. So you're like, why are they doing that? So I go home, I'm upset, but I'm so happy for my friend. But I'm still like, dang, what did I do wrong? The next year comes around. I'm like, Mom, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And she's, you're going. This is your year. You've worked so hard. You're doing it. I was like, okay, go through the whole process again, get through the camp again. Same thing happens. My number doesn't get called. Devastated. Go home. Mom, I'm never going again. Next year, you're going. This is your hardest year yet. You're going. I'm like, okay. Go through. Same thing happens. Still don't get called. Mind you, my best friend has gotten called 3 times. Every year she's gotten called. And every year she would say to me, you should be here. You should be here. You work so hard. You should be here. And my last year, the coach came up to me and said, you should have been making it. And I was like, what do you mean? And he just said, just understand you should have been making it. And that hit me like a bullet to the chest. And that's when I learned not everything is about how you play. Because I don't know if it was people got picked before they even went. I don't know if it was those coaches were picking their players. I don't know what the situation was, but I just was so knocked down for 3 years of dread, of feeling not good enough anymore. I'm winning all these awards. Why am I not good enough? Is it because I'm small? Am I not positive enough? Am I not being coachable? What is it? And then to hear that I should have made it the whole time, it was 3 years of just pain for nothing. And it's still, I think, one of the hardest things I've been through in my life. And that was high school. And like, obviously now I learn like it's not everything, but to just continually be beat down, being saying you're so good. I broke my thumb, thought my whole thing was over. Obviously it's not, it's a thumb. But at the time I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And just all of that was terrible. But lesson learned, not everything's about how you play, and you shouldn't be changing yourself for a team.
It
Like,
says so much about you that you went back over and over. And I really wish more parents pushed for that for their kids. I wish, obviously, if your kid doesn't want to go play and like really doesn't want to do the sport anymore, fine. But I hate that there's certain tryouts or certain coaches that are the reason why kids don't continue to play the sport that they love. And I'm really grateful that during those times, even though you should have made it, even though you deserve to, I'm glad you got the feedback of whatever was going on in the background, because we all know there's a lot of politics in sports. We all know there's favoritism. If anybody denies that, then they're living in a different reality.
yeah,
But I just want more people to take this story as it's okay to not make a team. It's okay to be let down. I feel like if we didn't have disappointments in life, then we wouldn't also have the victory moments as well. Even
yeah,
though your situation was unfair and it really sounds like you deserved a lot more out of it, I still think it says a lot about you as a person and a player. I think more people need to take that into consideration of going to try out for the team again. Like, even if you don't make your high school team as a freshman, if you play a club team during the off season, try out again as a sophomore. Or if you're looking to play in a higher level club, try out again the following year. Maybe go up to the coach, ask what you can do better. And I think those emotions that you experienced are beyond valid, and you're allowed to have those emotions plus still love for the sport that you want to continue to play. And I'm glad you didn't allow not making that specific team after those camps to stop you from playing, because you were up against, it sounds like, so many players as well, which also is the odds against you no matter your skill, height. Like, you could have
yeah,
30 of the same leveled players and they have to choose X amount. And I just think there's so many different dynamics. So I hope anybody listening to this, though, gets that even though you may get told no one time, even though you may get told no 3 times, that doesn't mean that the rest of your sports career is over for that. And there's so many other
yep,
opportunities and ways to continue it. And you probably played at a higher level, like in college, than some of those girls that made those teams over you. And so I just think it shows that you stuck through with it. You still got to play the sport you loved longer. And I do want to get into times that affected you and your love for volleyball. So I know you've over time mentioned coaches who claim that they were hard on you because they know you're going somewhere and things in that realm. So can you talk a little bit about that and share some of that?
yeah. So I had 2 female coaches that like saw me as a player, as a person. They were the people who said, you're going to be a setter. I got lucky enough to have one of those coaches for high school too. But once our club grew, they said, not really, but a little bit, like, your team's really good. We're going to focus on some other teams. So they gave us two new coaches, male coaches, and one of them really crushed me. I had him for 2 to 3 years of club, and it just got worse as the years went on. And it even became like a joke at how mean he was to me. Like, my friends, my teammates, people in the club were like, oh yeah, that guy hates her. He really hates her. And I was just always like, why? Why me? And ironically, one of my closest friends, who was the girl who made high performance, who was on my team for pretty much all of my years, was his favorite. So I was carpooling and spending all my time with his favorite being his least favorite. So I would say to her, what am I doing? What are you doing that I'm not doing? We're together 24/7. We're putting in the same effort, both smiling, both laughing, both following the rules. What am I doing? She was like, Bryn, I don't know. My most remembered moment in our club, there was a window at the top that all the parents could watch. So all the moms took that as their time to hang out and see each other and grow their friendships as well, which was awesome. But we were practicing rolling, diving and rolling. And I had like horrible pain in my back, and I felt just like sick. Like I wasn't doing well. I was hurting. I was bruised. And I ran to the bathroom, and he ended up changing the drill to a setting and passing drill as I was in there. I hear my name being screamed through the gym. Like, it's Bryn, why are you doing that? It's your fault. And I'm like looking around. I'm like, because I'm not in there. I feel like I'm going to throw up after all this diving and rolling. And I wash my hands really quick, and I come out, and I'm like, what did I do? I was in the bathroom. I'm sorry. Run back out. And he was like, oh, he thought I was on the court, and his instinct is to yell at me. You could hear it. It was so loud. All the parents were like, this is weird. And it was just always things like that. But that was the worst one that I can remember. And my mom, and I would come home from practice crying all the time. I can't understand what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'm playing hard enough. Maybe I'm not doing this hard enough. And it made me want to be not as good of a teammate, which is terrible. But I was like, I
And I
didn't
don't think
care.
that's your fault. I do believe that the coach's environment that they create can impact your mentality and towards your teammates. And it's like I feel like probably went as long as you could without letting it impact you. But there is a point where it is extremely impactful. And I have two questions for you. One was, how old were you when this happened? Do you remember?
13 to 16, because I remember it was my junior year, and that's when I was looking at colleges. That was my worst one.
Okay. And then did your mom ever get involved?
At the end, our parents used to get too involved when we were kids, I'll say, when none of us really knew what the volleyball world was. So I would say they were too involved. These coaches we had forever. So it would never be about playing time, but it would be about just like other things and life things that they didn't need to involve themselves in. And then towards the end, after that night, my mom was like, I think it's time we say something. And I was like, no, like, I'm afraid. Like, I don't want to say anything. What if he doesn't play me? I need to be played. Like, I'm working hard. My teammates need me. And she was like, we're going. I was like, okay. Because thankfully, the one thing he didn't take from me was my playing time. So we went, and I remember we were outside the gym. Everyone already left. And my mom was like, you're really treating her poorly. This and this are all some examples. Why? And that's when he said, I'm not. You're just going somewhere. That's why I'm doing it. And I remember being like, but my best friend's going somewhere too. And why are you treating her like this and me not like that? And mind you, she did. She played in college. She made all those high performance teams. She coached
Wow.
them. Like, she's a rock star. And that's all he could give me was like, I'm sorry, but you're going somewhere. And that wasn't good enough. And that next week, he was nicer, but
Mm,
not like I never felt supported by
yeah.
him. Like, it just, if I made a good play, or honestly, at points, even the team, but if I made like an unbelievable set that should have never happened, it was my
Ignoring it.
teammates.
Yeah.
It was my teammates. It was the parents. It was myself. that brought that up. He was just unsupportive.
It goes into favoritism too. And it's not that he was favoriting everybody else, he was almost like defavoritizing you. So many people can relate to your situation specifically, right? They feel like an outcast in their team because of how the coach is treating them versus others. Sometimes coaches think that we don't notice those things when I feel like we all, especially as females in sports, we very well can read people like a book. And there's so many times where coaches lack either genuineness, and you can read that easily, or they're nitpicking people by favoriting them versus others, or the complete opposite. And I feel like that's what you went through. And in your situation, there comes a point where parents probably do need to get involved. I've done segments on how to support your athletes as a parent. And there's not really a great rule book or general like black and white picture. I feel like it's a pretty gray area no matter the problem. But in your situation, I think it's beyond valid for your mom to want to interject. And then it says a lot, though, on your end that you were worried about the repercussions of that conversation because you've already had those conversations. You've already tried to make it better with the coach yourself for so long. And this wasn't like your first day of being with,
No.
this is a long time event. I really appreciate you sharing that story. And I know it's so hard to stay positive in that environment, but knowing you continue to move forward and keep that charisma going. But it's just so many people feel that power dynamic and power trip of coaches feeling like they can treat you however they want just because they have the title of coach. But really, are you being a coach if you're treating your players that way and impacting them so negatively? And it just breaks my heart for so many athletes out there because I know so many who quit because of coaches, and kids don't deserve to almost feel that abuse from a superior, especially in an
No.
environment where you're just trying to be your best. You're trying to go to higher levels like he's supposedly saying, but it's not really how he's treating you. Given that you were in a really tough situation with your coach and you probably used almost all avenues to kind of get through that, how did you navigate that and what kept you going?
I think proving him wrong was what kept me going. Not in practice, because in practice you don't really get the opportunities, but in games, because again, one thing he did not take from me was my playing time, which was amazing, thank God. But I think making that crazy set, looking over at him and just cheering so loudly for myself felt amazing. Or I had that perfect set that my middles were hugging me, my outsides were hugging me, and them cheering so loud that I didn't hear the silence. Like they were, that's a good thing to remember as being a teammate is cheer so loud so you don't hear the people that don't. Be that support system that you're looking for so you don't hear the silence.
If you have allies or even one person that can be your person through going a negative environment in a sport, it makes or breaks everything. And that was in your control. Like you could control the celebrations, you could control your attitude. You can't control what the heck the coach is doing or thinking or saying or acting, but you can do
Yeah.
everything to control your happiness, your success, and proving others wrong. So now tell me about the best environment you've been in for volleyball. And I'm biased, but I think I know what you're going to say.
So it involves you just a tad. So after this coaching negative experience, I stopped playing. The club that we were at folded a little bit. People were moving. It was our senior year, and everyone was just, maybe we just won't play this year. Some people who were playing in college played elsewhere. Our group split up. I stopped playing. And then from there, I only played rec league sports or leagues down here. I never played competitively again until MSU junior year. And that was for sure the best environment for me. Landslide. I don't know if it's because it was that amazing. I don't know if it's because all new people, whatever it was, just was magical for me. It was beyond magical. You had support in every avenue. You made friends in every avenue. And it just made campus feel small. You had people that you knew everywhere. It was just amazing.
We're so lucky to have you join junior year at MSU, and you had all new teammates for the first time since 7th grade, like you're just saying, and that you didn't play club or competitive those 2 years in college before. So like you adjusted to college life, you weren't an athlete in college at a competitive level anyway. And then now you're trying out for a new sport at a higher age with all new teammates for the first time since 7th grade. So how scary was that? And can you walk us through the decision making that you made to try out and then how that felt being in a full new environment with all new people besides the friend that brought you along?
It was petrifying. Michigan State, if you're not aware, is huge. 55,000 people. I went to Michigan State not knowing a single person in the state of Michigan or going to the school and any age group. So that alone was petrifying. My mom every year sent me with my volleyball bag and said, you never know, this may be in the year. And every year I was like, Mom, it's not happening, but I'll bring it.
I
Fine, I'll
love
bring
her.
it. So my junior year, my friend knew I played volleyball. And she said, hey, Bryn, I'm going to open gym. Will you please come with me? And my automatic answer was no. And she was like, but why? You play volleyball, right? And I was like, yeah, but I don't think it's for me. And she was like, please, it's not tryouts, it's just playing. Please come. So I was like, okay, fine. I do have my volleyball bag. I'll come. I did not tell my mom that I was going because I knew she would be too excited that I'd be like, I'm not going. I just knew it would be something bigger than it was because at this time I was literally just going to play for the night. That's it. So I went, and when I went, I learned that we were the same position. Very difficult. I had no idea. I had too much fun, and she was like, "Are you coming tomorrow?" And I said yes. So I went again, had too much fun again, decided that I was going to try out, and that next week I was a ball of nerves. A, because the friend that brought me is the same position, and B, setters were the smallest amount of number of people that they were taking. At least that's how it felt. So I knew 4 spots. There's returning girls, there's girls who have been setters in different environments, and my friend. So the whole week, ball of nerves. I kept making it to the next round, so excited. Made it again to the next round, so excited. Last day, got the email, couldn't remember my number, found out that I made it, cried, screamed, all the emotions. I remember the text, hey now, you made it to club volleyball. Freaking out, so excited. My friend texts me, did you make it? I say yes, and she says, I didn't. All the excitement left my body. I just felt like cold, and I just felt guilt. I was like, oh my God, my friend that brought me here, if I never came, what if she would make it? And it was terrible. And she was the one who said, don't feel bad. You deserved it. Like, you worked hard, you deserved it. But I still felt horrible, and still to this day feel horrible. But then once I got to the first practice, I felt whole. I realized that what I was missing was having my own home, my own place. All my roommates were from Michigan. They had their high school friends, they had clubs, they had groups, they had things, and I was always the friend they brought along. And I finally had something that was for me, that wasn't just my roommates. And I finally felt like Michigan State was my home. There was a lot of times that I thought about transferring, and I just felt so lonely. Once I had that, everything changed for me. Michigan State became the best place in the world. I felt so comfortable. Everywhere I looked, I was like, hey, knew someone everywhere. And message to everyone, try out for a team. Just do it. It may not work out, but you have something. For me, I've been playing team sports since I'm 8 years old. I didn't know a life without club sports, and I didn't realize that's why I wasn't feeling whole. The school was still beautiful. Everything was still great. My classes were still great. Love my major, but being a team athlete was what changed the game for me. And I think that's what made my junior year so special.
It's so interesting what you said because you were thinking of transferring schools because of loneliness throughout the first 2 years. And the fact that you tried out as a junior and pushed through those 2 years, imagine if you transferred after your sophomore year, you wouldn't even have found the home that you were looking for. And I think that's so hard in college, the transition, whether you're an athlete or not, is like finding your group of people, finding your club, finding the things that you're going to do on the weekends, who are you going to hang out with? What does your life consist of? Because it's so much different, whether you're an hour away from your hometown or whether you're thousands and thousands of miles away. And the fact that you were able to make that change as a junior is huge. You didn't transfer, you made the team, you found your home as a junior in college, which most people are expecting to maybe find that earlier on. And I will say specifically as athletes, we are used to being a part of our team our whole lives. So you had your home. Yes, you were physically at your home in your hometown with people that you knew. But even then, as an athlete, you were used to this team dynamic that you could rely on every day at practices. You could rely on for texts every single day. It's such a different world being an athlete. And the team dynamic. It's just something that's inexplainable if you've never experienced it before. And then there is a huge transition, especially if you're not committed to playing a sport in college initially, to taking a step back from that team dynamic, from your identity as an athlete, and now transitioning as, well, I don't have practice every day anymore. I don't have to live up to a coach's expectations anymore. I don't have to fulfill this role that I fulfilled since I was 8 years old or in middle school. So I just think the whole conversation of transitioning to college as an athlete and not playing a sport or planning to play a sport is so uncomfortable in itself and a huge adjustment on top of adjusting to this whole life change as it. And
Yeah.
I will say, you brought up a good point of going to a tryout with a friend and them not making it and you making it, and them being the reason why you went to the tryout in the first place. That happens so frequently. I feel like that is one of the disappointments when it comes to tryouts. Your first worry is, of course, am I going to make the team? I want to make the team. But then it's also about your friends, because if you are a good friend, obviously you're going to care about their feelings. You don't want to let them down, but you also deserve to be excited for yourself in it as well. And so many people experience that for high school, even for middle school tryouts. Like for me, I had certain friends that didn't make the middle school team. For club tryouts, if you're going to go try out for a national team and you make a state team. When it comes to Michigan State, there's so many girls. I just remember those tryouts being so freaking competitive. Volleyball players that go to Michigan State that decide not to go play at a D1, 2, or 3 collegiate level. And we had many girls on our team. Everybody on our team could have played college at one level or another. It says a lot about you that you were so compassionate and that it did impact your enthusiasm of making the team when you found out your friend didn't. But at the same time, it's really great that your friend was able to support you through that and still be a good friend to you and just have that open communication that it's not your fault that she didn't make it or vice versa.
Yeah.
And just, if anything that anybody gets from this, is those disappointments will happen and they do happen. And my advice to people navigating that is give your friends some time if they need time to process it on their own, go through their disappointments themselves, but limit how it does impact you. I feel like as empaths, we are impacted by so many things right off the bat that other people wouldn't think twice about. But when
Yeah.
it comes to being sensitive to those things, it's like you're allowed to also feel disappointment for your friend, but you also deserve that excitement, because that is like a once in a lifetime opportunity and moment that you got, that how many other girls that would try out didn't get it? 100, over 100. Just an interesting dynamic that sucks. And that is the downside of sports, is when it comes to friends and others not maybe making the team that you did.
And I think also, again, that's another thing that you don't understand the impact that it makes on your life. Like
Mhm.
making club volleyball made such a massive impact. And I was only there for 1 year and then I was vice president the next. You never know how much it's going to change the trajectory of your life. So I just really want to emphasize again, try out, just do
Yep.
it, do scary things.
Yep. And so I know we had some drama on our team. We can get into it, because even at the college level, even though we're all adults, you're still dealing with various people, drama, cliques, individuals causing issues. Maybe they're taking advantage of certain situations or not caring as much as everybody else did to work there. You definitely handled certain drama, I feel like, in college differently than maybe like in high school. I don't want to say like you didn't hold your ground your whole life, but like this was a time where you had your backing and you're
Yeah.
like, this is something that I'm not willing to put up with. So can you just give us a little insight maybe on the situation and how you navigated at a collegiate level drama ongoing on your team?
My first year, I was still really nervous, still really excited. And I just felt amazing because I joined a team and I made a team all new people. These people didn't know me, they didn't know my reputation, they didn't know anything about me, and I still made it. And I was on that high, and one of the players brought down that high. Either we just didn't mesh, or my sets just weren't for her, whatever the situation was, the tempo wasn't right. She couldn't find ways to bring me up. She could only find ways to bring me down. She called me names on the court. She didn't make me feel included. And it was heartbreaking because I felt like I finally had my home and then it's being taken away from me and it just started. And instead of handling it in the ways of, I'm just going to let it go, I confided in one of my teammates, and one of my teammates brought it to the e-board, which, if you don't know, it's pretty much all the students that make up the presidential section of the club, for a lack of better terms. And because we hire the coaches, we do everything. So the students still have the power, if not the coaches in club world. And she said, maybe we should bring it to them. And some of the girls are on the team. The vice president happened to be on my team at the time. And I was like, okay, fine. I don't really want to, but I should. Brought it to her. She already knew it was happening. And everyone had my back. And it was amazing because all my teammates had my back. My coach had my back. The vice president had my back. And everyone could see I was working hard. She was just being mean. And especially with setters, you set to the person. The person doesn't play to you. So for setters, why it's so difficult is you have to set differently for every single person. And you remember it. Every person likes a different tempo, a different height, different everything. Their approach is different. Where they come to you is different. And if you don't mesh with someone, that's okay, but that's not a reason for name calling. Maybe you just need to swap it up. Maybe you need to practice with them one-on-one. That doesn't make you a bad player, and that doesn't give you a reason to be mean to your teammates. And everyone saw that, and we were able to work past that
and handle it accordingly. I agree with you that you don't have to be best friends or even friends with everybody on a team. That's clear. And that was clearly not the dynamic in this situation. But not everybody meshes, not everybody clicks, and that's okay. But on the court or even on the bench or even outside of the gym, you have to find ways to be cordial with people. You have to find ways to be respectful. And you might not like the same shows, you might not talk the same or have the same priorities in life, but that doesn't mean you degrade somebody or treat somebody worse. I think she just wanted you to tend to her. And like you're saying, you have everybody else on the court, plus the bench, plus in practice, plus outside of the gym to take into consideration as a setter. So I think she expected you to make her look better in ways that you didn't have control over doing. And a huge part of it comes with the expectations of hitters to setters. And you're right. She expected everything to be tended to her, and that just wasn't going to be the case. And then she couldn't handle that emotionally or mentally as a player. And honestly, she wasn't a good teammate. Nobody really felt that way in general. And when those things happen, and you said we have the e-board versus just allowing our coaches to handle everything. We leveraged our coaches to a point to control that. But if you are playing in grade school or club teams, that is a time where you really do need to confide in your coaches and bring an ally if you have to, and just state this is the situation that's ongoing. Like you said, nobody deserves to be called names. Nobody deserves to be talked behind their backs. Nobody deserves to have a leech on their team, bringing the whole team down. Yes, you're saying it was just you, and that's true. You got the brunt of it for sure, just because you were always closest to it, but it impacted everybody. And that's when
Yeah.
there's a line to it's like when it impacts one person, there's a huge line. But when the whole team is impacted, there's no need to move forward with this season with this person.
Yeah.
I do appreciate you sharing that because I'm sure a lot of people and a lot of athletes out there go through similar things. You are not only playing a sport, you are navigating a whole social dynamic of the sport as well. And that's really hard, especially if you're playing the same position as somebody else, if they're relying on you for your position. So I just appreciate you sharing that. And it was a great season after that. Sometimes coaches have blinders on to the problems on their teams. And again,
Yeah.
that's when favoritism comes in and it's really unfair. But I'm glad you had allies to confide in and move forward with. And again, to anybody else listening, if your coach does have the blinders on that we were just discussing, then you definitely find those allies in the most appropriate way possible. Obviously, it's not great to just be blabbling to everybody on the team and everybody and their moms. But to the same time, like when you feel like you are being bullied or negatively impacted, like that's something that has to be discussed, no matter the power dynamics or seniority levels or coach favoritism.
Yeah.
So, with that, I do want to talk about being best friends with people on your team and the dynamics, especially in volleyball, because I've been fortunate enough where I've had a couple teams with this power dynamic of a solid passer, setter, hitter, or you just have that flow that is something you can't teach. It's something that it's either
Yeah.
there and you work towards and you work on, or sometimes it's not. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about the bonds that you've had in that realm?
My 3 closest friends from my whole elementary school, middle school, high school. Funny enough, 2 were on the Breezy CYO team, and me and one other were on the Rockway. So for those, we played against each other a lot, but the rest, we were pretty much on the same team forever. And there was one outside, one right side, one middle, and it could not have worked better. I don't know if we played so good together because we were such good friends, or we became such good friends because we played so well together. And it was just life changing. And from there, we went to high school, and 3 of us made varsity. One of them stayed on JV because the team still needed to be really good with JV, but our positions were what was needed on varsity. So it had nothing to do with her skill level. Her position was just already filled. So the 3 of us moved up, played together still throughout. Amazing. And then we took our same talents through to club. It's funny, we still get talked about in the neighborhood about being that good, and we brought a lot of medals to our school. Our poster was hanging up. I haven't been back. I don't know if it's still there. I can't speak to that. But just having that dynamic and those friendships and that trust. Like, we had such trust in each other because we were friends, but also every single person was always doing their job. Every
Mhm.
single person was always putting in the efforts, doing the work, and you never had to feel like, "Oh, we don't want that person up there. Oh, I can't set that person." When we were all in together, there was never a time that I felt like I didn't have somewhere to go or somewhere to set, and I think that really did change the trajectory of my career and just of my life, really,
Mhm.
because they were so good, so I got better. And when I got better, they got better because I was
Mhm.
the one setting them. And they were always pushing me. And funny enough, again, some of the ways that they like to be set came into my college life. And I was able to mesh with those people based off of the way that they like to be set too. So that was really cool.
I love
Yeah.
that when you have that, like, initial dynamic and you just flow, and it's just something if you've had it in volleyball, like, it's just something you can't even explain. It's just good feeling of flow and maintaining that connectivity inside and out, on and off the court.
Yeah.
So, it's really cool when that happens. Mikayla and Sam, we just always had this, and I think it's the friendship thing. Like, I do think that ties into it
Yeah.
because Sam would pass, Mikayla would set, and I would hit, and it's not that we all were incredible. We just had that confidence in each other and knew what our roles were or when we would step in for one another, and it was like this seamless flow. And I feel like that with you in college too, we always work things out, or we always figured out what needed to work, and I always hit off you the best out of almost all setters that I've played with in my life. And it's about communication and chemistry and just being willing to open up to it.
Yeah. Definitely.
So you're known as the neighborhood legend. Tell me about your Belle Harbor volleyball tournaments where you pretty much became your local celebrity if you win. And I know you've sent me videos of how, like, incredible it is and amazing it is. So I just feel like it's such a cool, unique experience, and I'd love to hear more about
Yeah. I will say there's a lot of legends around here. It is not just me. This place is booming. So pretty much we're a sporty town, if you couldn't already tell. The parents are throwing kids in sports left and right. From pretty much when they can walk, you're playing a sport. Once you're done with your sports, or even in the middle of them, they have rec league sports. So we have volleyball, basketball, and softball. So basketball and softball still very popular, don't get me wrong, but volleyball has taken over this neighborhood by storm. And they've been playing forever, so it's not even once we started playing to the neighborhood, it's been going. You play in the summer every week on Wednesdays. Big deal. There's 8 divisions, so many teams, so many players, so many skill levels. It could be you don't even know how to pass the ball, or it could be you're playing D1 college or you're playing professional volleyball. That is how crazy the difference is. And everyone plays. You don't know anyone that doesn't play. So in these leagues, that championship for the top division, which would be Division One, big deal. But then you also have the charity volleyball tournaments, the tournaments that are just for fun, and some are both. Some are for bragging rights, some are for sweatshirts, some are for long sleeves. And let me tell you, when those long sleeves and sweatshirts come out, you see them all year round. And people talk about it. People are like, oh, they won this year. Oh, they won this
it.
year.
That's
And
so
it's
funny.
crazy. It's like a movie around here. So when you win these big tournaments, one was actually this weekend. Some of the people I play with on Wednesdays won. Shout out. It's like watching a college volleyball game. It's pretty much like we're Harper Murray. That's what it feels like in that moment because everyone is surrounding you. The music is going, the crowd is roaring. It's crazy. And you get talked about. It's in the paper. People are like, oh my God, did you hear so and so won? It's like a big deal. It defrosts in March, and then everyone starts talking about it. And then I get the pleasure to play in the winter and the fall too, indoor.
Did you win a year?
I did. I've won the Wednesday night league 3 times, but it's still super cool, don't get me wrong, but it's not as cool because it's not the whole season, it's not all the divisions. The
Mm.
one that I won was called the Sugar Bowl tournament. The bar that it's at is called the Sugar Bowl. That's one that happened this weekend, but it's all skill levels. I believe there's 32 or 35 teams or something, and these people are good. And what's funny is a lot of these athletes haven't played their whole life. Pretty much you have to have 2 girls on the court at all times. So, unique, but it works. So pretty much those 2 girls get fought over. They get pulled in directions. People are trying to bribe you to play with them. People are like, "You played with them last year, play with us this year." And there's a lot of girls in this town that play, so it makes it really fun because you get to, like, showcase what you do all year. And then the men have played basketball, softball, baseball their whole lives. And then once they got older, they want to play something else. So they're just athletes that pick up new sports and play. And these are the people that are winning. It's not always people that have played in high school or played club or whatever. They're just athletes who just picked up something new at the ripe age of 20. When I won, no one was older than 22. Me and one of my closest friends, her name's Gabby, we were on the team. So we were the token girls for that year. And I believe only one other person played volleyball for real. Everyone else was basketball players and rugby players. That's it. And we won. And it was the craziest feeling in the world because if you have some people from the neighborhood, they're cheering you on and they want you to win. And because we were so young, we had the whole neighborhood on our side. If we got a kill, the whole place was standing, sand was flying, music was going. When the other team, boos were happening, things were flying. I'm still on a high from that. People
That's
talk
awesome.
about our year, this year, last year, like the winners are still noticed. And it's just so cool that we get to bring something that we played forever and keep it in our everyday life.
That's amazing.
It's
So cool.
yeah.
I love that environment. I love that it's like a community built thing. And I feel like anybody can take initiative to do that. Sure, you might not have as much traction at the beginning, but it's like something cool that you have the ability to, like you said, in your 20s, start something new or just be able to play in a fun but competitive way and have support around so many people is such a unique experience. So I love that you get that opportunity and that your community is like that close knit to
Yeah.
just be so into something.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I do wanna get into your coaching transition, and what made
Okay.
you decide to move from player to coach? Because I feel like not everybody has a coach calling, but just wanna hear
Yeah.
your thoughts on that and what made you make that jump.
So I was mid playing in my winter league, and another coach for this club came up to me and said, "Hey, we're looking for coaches. Do you coach?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "You should come, see if it works for you." And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, "No, you're coming." I was like, "Okay." So I went and I just felt joy. It was so nice to be able to pass on like my love for the sport and see it in all of these other younger athletes. And I think if I didn't have that push, I wouldn't have done it. It's very rewarding. And I think it was incredible to take everything that has come before me and everyone else's skills and little things that they tell you and give that knowledge to someone else and watch it be passed on and watch them get those rewarding moments that they look for, getting their first serve over the net, setting that perfect ball, getting that kill, and watching the joy go through their face. It just brings me back. I
What
love
was
it.
the hardest part for you for coaching?
Sometimes feeling helpless. I feel like you work so hard and I find ways to like research or go on TikTok or just look up ways to teach someone. And sometimes it just doesn't work and you just want to do everything to help them. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes they just don't have the strength yet. I worked a lot with 14s or 13s and sometimes they're not strong enough yet. That's
Mhm.
not their fault. They're just so young.
Yep.
And I think it
Baby
was moments like that
giraffes.
where you see them, yes, they're listening to you, they're taking advice, they're working out, they're putting in the work, and it's still just so close that sometimes I left and I felt helpless. I think that was the hardest part.
I agree, and the certain traits, whether it's teamwork, determination, you can't always teach everything either. You can encourage, but you can't teach or control. And so I think
Yep.
that for me is like the hardest in general. Given your player and coach perspective and all the levels you've played at, what frustrates you the most about volleyball culture?
Something that I think needs to be altered is the negativity around playing time. And I was negative about that myself. I 100% own it.
It's
So
hard
playing
not
a
to be,
5-1,
right?
we always ran a 5-1. That's just what worked for our team. That's where our players' strengths were. And some of the other setters transitioned to right sides and they were incredible. And so that's just what always worked for me. So if I got pulled out of a game, it was negative. It wasn't an attack, but it felt like one. It was like if I missed a few serves, I knew I was coming out. If I missed a set or my passing wasn't that great, it was negative. And so I grew up feeling like it was negative. What changed my perspective actually was college because at MSU, we played a 6-2. And I wasn't used to playing a 6-2 because I've always played all around 5-1. And so once we got to college and I learned about a 6-2, or at least learned more about it, playing time is not negative. Not getting it is not negative. I found ways to be a better team player, teammate, because the other girl that was the other setter was just as amazing as me. And it had nothing to do with competition against each other. Like in practice, of course, you're trying to beat each other out, but in games and tournaments, it's absolutely not like that. I learned that playing time isn't always a bad thing or a good thing. I was able to cheer her on. I was able to watch her thrive. I was able to learn from her. And on top of that, you get a break. You get to actually just sit down and have some water, chill out, and just cheer and be in the moment. I feel like when you're playing, you don't always get that atmosphere that you're feeling and you want to support. But once you're off the court, you get that moment to be that. And that is something that I think needs to be changed.
That's super important, and it's so true. It's hard to not take things personally, and then certain coaches handle mistakes differently. You missing a serve, that's a mistake, but in that moment, you feel like it's a failure because you're waiting to be pulled out, and it's how the coaches are handling those dynamics too, of how personally we take them. Obviously, we'd never want to make mistakes, but I don't know one volleyball player or any athlete in general that's never made a mistake, and I do think we're a lot harder on ourselves than we need to be, but at the same time, we have these higher expectations of ourselves, and playing time is always a hard conversation in general. I think I'm glad
Yeah.
you share the different perspective of getting used to a different way of being on a volleyball team. There are different ways that setters have roles. Like some teams, a setter going all the way around works the absolute best. Some teams, a 6-2, like you said, where you have two setters switching in and out, work the best. And I think every team dynamic is different. And that's what I try to preach to a point is just because it's one way this year doesn't mean it's going to be the same way next year. And that's in a good and bad way, right?
Yeah.
It's just a different experience. If you could tell your 8-year-old self one thing now looking back on everything from volleyball, what would that be?
I think the biggest lesson that I would tell myself is don't let anyone push the sport on you. I didn't play for 3 years. I wasn't feeling like I was loving it anymore. And I just felt beat down. And every time I saw it, I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to play it. I played in the rec league because if I wasn't playing, that would be weirder. But I wasn't happy. But then I realized that the sport will come back to you when you're ready for it. I didn't
Mhm.
know I was ready for it, but your love and your passion for it's always going to come back. So if you have that bad coaching experience, you have that bad teammate experience, you get injured, any of those things, the sport will always be there for you. You won't always be there for the sport. And it's something that you can count on. You can always pick up a volleyball. You can always go back. Will it be on a team? Not always, but the sport will always be there for you and let it be your therapy. Let it be your time to just zone everything out of the world, family problems, friend problems, boy problems, school, college. Let it be those 2 hours that you get to just breathe and focus in. The sport will always be there for you.
I love that so
Always.
much. That gives me
Yeah.
chills because it's so true. And you had such a unique competitive upbringing with it too. So I feel like maybe when you got to college, it was like a burnout thing, right? Like you don't almost
Yeah.
have to put yourself in these potential toxic environments anymore, or you don't have to be pushing yourself 1,000% into something. You can take a step back and accept this new chapter. And you took that break for yourself by playing in other ways that maybe were still competitive, but not to the championship level aspect of it, which in any sport, I feel like is so easy to burn out on, right? You can't be moving that fast in a sport and not get burned out eventually. And so you took that break and then you came back with that passion and fire and it still showed that you could still play at a higher level or a similar level than what you were playing at before, even with that break. And I think even injury wise, we get all concerned of, oh, I can't miss this practice. I can't miss this game. I can't miss this season. I can't miss these critical milestones. But like you said, it can always come back, and it might not be in the exact way as before, but it doesn't mean it's going to be in a worse way as before. And now, even after college, right? You're not playing at the competitive college level anymore. Now you're playing in rec leagues every week with your fiance now. And it's such a different
Yeah.
chapter in life that you're focusing on. Now you're focusing on a wedding, your job, still keeping the sport in your life just in a different way, but still at an incredible competitive level. So, how is that dynamic with John? And you say you get to coach him, and how does he handle that?
He is a trooper, let me tell you. Same thing, played football, baseball his whole life. In his 20s, decided, maybe even a little younger, okay, I want to start playing for real.
Mhm.
So we don't play together in our Wednesday league, but we play together in the winter and the fall and all the tournaments together. And he lives for the feedback, lives for it.
I love
He
it.
is just such an athlete where he just wants to get better, and people are poaching him to be on other teams. It's legit. It gets crazy around here.
You're like, I
People are
got a
poaching
ring, so
him.
he's stuck.
Yeah, for real. I was like, "You're trying to steal him from me? No, wrong."
That's
Um,
hilarious.
it's so rewarding. Indoor is so different from beach, and this year was the first year that he played indoor with me, and he was like, "Oh, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to approach? What's that?" And so then you show him, "Oh, you're supposed to block. You block this way and not that way." I'm like, "Yeah, you just gotta you do this and it works great." And then you give him the feedback of, "Oh, that was awesome." Then after the game, he gets in the car, closes the door, and he's like, "Did you see that kill? Did you see it? It was so good. I turned." Or my approach, I went outside the court. It was so good. It hit the 10-foot line. And it's just so rewarding. It's really incredible. I give him so much credit because sometimes he asks me for feedback. Sometimes I definitely just give it. And he just respects it and keeps it going, and I think it's adding to my love for the sport because I get to watch it through his eyes now, and I get to
Yeah.
see him play positions that I obviously didn't play. He's 6'3" and I'm 5'5". You get to see the love and the passion and just watching older people start to play the sport and love it and still be a good teammate and team player by taking that advice, not beating themselves up, being positive. It's really like once in a lifetime experience.
I
Love it.
love that, and I think it's so cool too because you get to watch somebody you love fall in love with something that you're in love with,
Exactly.
and it's so cool. I'm glad you guys
No,
do
it
that
really
together,
is.
and it's important to have those things in your relationship that you know you can go do together and enjoy together, and it's not fulfilling just that check the box time with each other, it's also fulfilling something that you're passionate about at the same time in one, and I think it's a really cool dynamic, and I'm really grateful that he loves it so much.
Oh, me too, because then I can be like, "You wanna go play here? You wanna go play on the beach tonight?" He's like, "Yes. Get me
Yeah.
my shoes. Let's go." So
Yep.
it's nice, and it's a good way to just bond and keep our relationship going, and you get those exciting moments, and he won his championship this year,
Oh,
so
I think I saw that. Good job,
props to
John.
him. He won, lots of hard work, and just even that moment of him, like, running off the court, hugging me, so excited. It's like he is in the NBA. That's how it feels when he wins these things. I'm in my WAG era, but it's amazing.
I love that.
Bye,
Go ahead.
John. Love you.
I have a final few closing thoughts. So you have a motto that it's like, trust yourself always. If others are trusting you on the court, you should too. Can you tell me why that's so important?
That comes from the pressure of being the quarterback, and everyone has to trust you because you're the quarterback. You're the one setting them up for success or for failure. And I had to learn if they're trusting me, I need to trust me. If my coaches are trusting me, I need to trust me. And I think I didn't feel that way in the beginning when I was younger, but with age, I realized, okay, they know that I'm going to set them a perfect ball. And that's why they're challenging me with these plays, these sets, these tempos. They know I'm going to do it. So why don't I feel like I'm going to do it? Once I got that, I think that's what really pushed me to be that and feel that motto.
Thank you for sharing that. And then lastly, do you have any final thoughts for young setters out there that are maybe just starting off on their setting journey or get told that they're going to be setting the rest of their volleyball career?
Yeah, don't let the stress of being the quarterback get to you. Use that as a time to be a leader. I feel like Sometimes the setters are the captains, and that's a good way to showcase your positive attitude, being supportive, and it's okay to not get the credit. And I think that's something that I needed to be told. Like, of course, I get in the car and my mom's, "Your sets were amazing." Or my teammates were like, "Oh my God, that set was unbelievable." But you're not normally getting it from the crowd. The crowd's not cheering because you set a ball really good. The crowd's cheering because your best friend just killed a crazy ball in the corner or got an amazing block. And it's okay to not get that. And I
Mhm.
think that's a good lesson in life is to give yourself the validation. Like I wish I remembered to always give myself the validation instead of looking for it from others because you
Mhm.
can always give it to yourself. And you can always be your own number one fan, your own cheerleader. And it's a good thing to remember.
For me, I just always appreciated you in that role because you were always asking for feedback. Like, you always wanted it to be better so that the hitters could shine. And obviously, as a hitter, I always remember getting a kill, and I feel like, yeah, I was celebrated, but I always wanted to go to you first because if
And
it
you
wasn't,
did.
yeah, because if it wasn't for you, I just wanted to give you in the moment feedback just because you appreciated that. And I felt that was good communication. Because if it's
It
5 points
was.
later or a match later, you're not going to remember what to tell your setter or hitter. And I feel like you would give me feedback too. And so I feel like you were always the first person I wanted to celebrate with.
You were. And
Yeah.
you're actually in the minority of that. You'd be surprised. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised. And I
Yeah.
think that's what also makes you so special as a player is not to toot your own horn on your own podcast, but you were just always so positive that always made me want to be so positive. You were so supportive that always made me want to be so supportive. And that is definitely something about you that needs to be celebrated and you deserve your flowers. You always give people the credit that they deserve and you always made everyone feel good on the court, off the court, real life, volleyball life, like you are number one. There's no one better
Oh,
than you.
I appreciate you, and I feel like I felt that with you and even friendship-wise too, and I just feel when you are giving that energy to people, especially your friends, right? Like, you have friends on the court, but even just the teammates that you might not click with as much, I feel like it's just a catalyst to what you'll get in return, right? If you're cheering
Yep.
for somebody, you're taking into consideration others. If you're the one initiating that, then, you can get that in return. I just feel like you and I both have that mentality, like you said, on and off the court. What you're giving out, you will get back in one way or another, and it's always important to be a supportive mate player and friend in general. I really appreciate you saying that. That was really nice.
It's the
Do
truth.
you I love you. Thank you so much, Bryn, for coming on She Aced That. You've been one of my best friends since MSU, and I'm so grateful we were able to play the sport together. I appreciate you getting to share your story today. It's been incredible, and you're going to help so many people, from the little girl who chose volleyball because it was indoors to being a decorated setter to an amazing woman and fiance who's changed the game on and off the court. You're so impactful to so many people's lives in so many ways through your positivity, kindness, and love. And you are exactly what She Ace That is about. So thank you so much for being here and for being you.
Oh, of course. Thank you for saying that. You're making me tear up. And thank you for having me. This was too much fun. And we probably could have gone for too long.
We could have gone for hours. I love that. And that's what's the best about this. Thank you, everybody, for joining She Ace That, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye.